Hey, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of Food Allergy Awareness Week. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath with Eating at a Meeting, and you are here to talk about food allergies. And I'm here to introduce you to Executive Chef Karen O'Connor, who I met at Catersource. We can't figure out what year it was, a handful of years ago. And she's the executive chef at Daniel Catering and Events, one of Toronto's most celebrated catering companies. She's been with the company 26, 27 years and has over 30 years of hospitality experience. But when I met her at Catersource, she was teaching a class on how to create allergy-friendly menus. I'm going to say this, so you don't drive yourself batty in trying to figure out all the different dietary needs. They're based out of Canada, Toronto, and she is a CATIE Chef of the Year recipient, past president of the International Caterers Association, and a featured educator at Catersource and the Art of Catering Food, which is where I met her. Karen, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you. So I like I said just a few minutes ago, actually, I was kind of really blown away, to walk into the session. I was excited, blown away. Like, hey, there's a class on how to do this. And what prompted you, and why is it near and dear to your heart, like you just said, to make sure that we have menus that meet the dietary needs of our attendees?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, my sister is celiac, and she also has anaphylactic allergies to nuts and to shellfish. So I am very cognizant of that fact and how severe those things are and how they hamper her life. And so if I can help people navigate that, I want to do that. And the other thing is just, I mean, Toronto's a big city, and we have a very multicultural population. So not only do we have, there are lots of allergens, like there are lots of people come to our events with allergies. We also do have to deal with a number of different diets in terms of like, so halal and kosher, we're not kosher, so we can't, but we can do kosher style. And then we also, you get the requests for diabetic, low sodium, keto, all of those types of functions as well. So at the end of the day, it really is about I mean, we have to remember we are caterers. We are catering to our guests. We want our guests to have an amazing experience. But I also want my chefs to have an amazing experience too. So if I can figure out how to accommodate allergens with designing my menus so it is so it's not a stretch when someone comes and says to me, "Hey, I'm gluten free." I'm like, "No problem. We have X, Y, and Z. We can handle that." And we don't really get our allergens way far in advance. So it is kind of nice to design your menus so that you are already accommodating various top allergens from the get go. So
Mm-hmm.
that then when you get them, you're like, "Yep, no problem. We already got that covered." I mean, you still will then have now you go from the allergens, the anaphylactic allergens to intolerances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lots and lots of no onion and garlic right now. We're
I
getting a
know.
lot of
Yeah.
that. Mushrooms are often big. So, and originally soy and sesame weren't on our top. We had the top seven. Now soy and sesame are on those. Um, so that's why I do it. I mean, to make my life easier, but also, Chris, I want to create a great guest experience, and I want people to feel safe and comfortable when they're at my events.
Well, and there's so many things that I want to unpack in there because even like I was chatting with somebody earlier today and she's a person with celiac disease. And, when you say, "Oh, well, we've got you covered," depending on how that phrase is presented also opens up a wide variety of, anxiety or like, "Oh, okay, you've got me covered, but what does that mean?" And like the transparency of that. And so you could walk those people through what you did.
Mhm. I could. And as I said, so I try um, to design my menu. So for a sit-down menu, we most often will have choices. You know, it's going to be a beef and a fish and a vegetarian or a vegan. And the vegetarians, the poor vegetarians, are the one that are sort of, they are now have to for the most part, they get vegan food. But most vegetarians are fine with that. They don't feel too excluded, and if it's a problem, we can do something that's vegetarian and not vegan. But so that means that if I have two choices, one of my starches is going to be gluten-free. And it's going to be prepared in such a way that I don't have to worry about cross-contamination in the kitchen. It's just, you know, it's going to be roast fingerling potatoes that are cut on a clean table with someone who's not, you know, and in my kitchen, in the pastries, in the savory side, we're not using a lot of gluten in terms of flour and stuff. So we do use roux to thicken the starch, but that's done in a separate place. So that's what I mean. So I have that choice available to the person, and I have taken the care in the kitchen to prepare it in such a way that it won't be cross-contaminated. The same thing with the sauces. So if one sauce is thickened with a roux, then the other sauce will be a salsa or a chimichurri or a relish. And I will say that even as we go down this road, and because gluten and celiac's it's big in Toronto, there's huge, like I will have every event, I'm going to have at least 10 people that are. So we tend to say, do we have to put gluten in this dish? Can I do more? So I am doing more salsas and gastriques and vegetable-based sauces as opposed to the old-fashioned ones with flour and butter and cream. And
I
so
think
that's what we do.
the French culinary school
And
probably have a conniption.
they probably, you know what? But even people are eating differently now than when, you know, like things change, trends change. And it's the same with my hors d'oeuvres. You know, I tell my guys as we develop things, like you can have something with all the feels. You know, you can make something with cheese and cream and butter and flour. You can have that. But for every one that you do with all the feels, like, let's make one without any of the feels. And then, you know, in some, like, make sure we have some gluten-free ones. Let's make sure that we have vegan hors d'oeuvres. Let's make sure that I have dairy-free hors d'oeuvres that still have, because that's the other thing. Like, I think that in you know, in order to make our lives easier, we kind of went through a period where we just really simplified things. And so either you had everything or you're vegan. And you know what, over the course of the years, I mean, I've been, you know, you are instructed by your clientele in a way, lots of ways. We had a president of one of the boards of a concert hall that we do a lot of work in. He was celiac, and he said, "I'm not vegan. I'm not vegan. I want my meat. I want that beef, but I can't have you know, I don't want the mashed, or not the mashed potatoes, but I can't have that flour-based sauce."
Mm.
So, you know, and so then you're like, oh, it makes you think, okay, the hors d'oeuvres, like I can have a dessert that is, or an hors d'oeuvre that is meat based, but it's gluten free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can work that through. We make a lovely little hors d'oeuvre that has a potato cup, and it has braised short rib, and it's got a pickled carrot top, and it's beautiful, and it's tasty, and it's gluten free, and it's dairy free. You know, and so those two things are taken care of, but it's not vegan. I have vegan
Right.
options for the vegans.
Well, and
So
or go ahead.
So that means when my sales team are creating their menus, I have given them lots of options so that even if you don't have the dietary um, needs for that particular party, you are going in with a menu that is already covering those things. I have really great
Love it.
vegan options, that's covered. I have gluten-free options for my mains and my starches and my vegetables. My appetizers generally tend to be plant-based. Um, that just makes everybody's life easier, and everyone, you know what, we're all eating lighter and healthier. So
Mm-hmm.
I rarely get a pushback on that. And I try to make sure that any allergens I put, because you know, I love cheese on my salad, like I love it. But I can have cheese on a salad that is very easy to not put on the salad. It's going on at the last minute. I don't have to put it on. And then I have a vegan salad. So,
It sounds so, I mean, I say it sounds so easy, but it's not. I know it took a lot of time to get there because you're like, "Oh, this gentleman said, well, I want my steak," which I hear a lot of stuff from
right.
vegans because the standard of giving everybody in an allergy thing, here's the one dish that you can get. And like going next week, I'm there for Sunday through Friday. I have 3 receptions with all the same people. And when there's only one option that's gluten-free, dairy-free, I can't order that same thing 3 nights in a
No,
row.
no, no. No, you
It's
can't. And that's and why would you, and why would they want you to? And
right.
I'm making it sound simple, and it's true. It is a process, but I, I would rather have solutions for you beforehand than have to make a solution for you 5 days out,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
So if I can design food that solves your problems before you've even told me about them, then I'm happy, very happy, and
And
in
you
good shape. And
yeah.
and I know what I'm doing. My team knows how to make those items. We have tested them. We have recipes for them. And so rather than trying to do something on the fly, which tends to happen if you don't have planning like this, it just leaves too much room for error, and it also leaves too much room for producing a mediocre product.
Yeah, because in the end, I mean, you want to produce, I mean, food is the topic of conversation at a lot of events, no matter what event it is, and
Yeah,
bad or good. And you want it to be the good side because, and Jay and I talked about this, and he said, when I produce a wedding for 200 people, he's like, there's 198 people that could be a new client of mine. Like,
exactly,
and
for sure.
and I told him 200 because you want that bride and groom to rehire you, but
Yeah, yeah, no, that's something we talk about here. Like we have been in business for 45 years, and um, so there's issues in when you've been around for 45 years. That's a great thing, but it's also like the brides and grooms. Now we're trying to get the brides and grooms whose grandparents had us do their wedding.
wow, that's
And they stayed
awesome.
with us. We're doing a lot of 90th birthday parties right now, but we want those. And so we are fighting against a little bit that, like, oh, I don't want to go to my grandmother's caterer. So we have to make sure that we are staying on trend and on top of things, and that because it's true, at that wedding you can have lifelong clients. That's what you want.
Right.
um yeah.
That I love that. You should find a story around all of that. That is so cool. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so let's just go back there because you said you started with the company as Danielle's assistant back in the 80s, and then
No, actually, sorry.
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. When I first started, I was a lowly prep cook,
Oh, okay,
essentially. I
okay.
was
So
in
you were a
garde
prep cook.
manger.
You're a garde-manger
Yes.
back in the 80s,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then now you're the executive chef. That's
Yeah.
the 50 years ago, right?
It's a journey. Yeah.
Yeah. How has that changed from like, did you even talk about allergens when you were in the
You really
80s?
didn't. You really didn't. I don't even, I mean, and it's weird because my sister had them.
Mhm.
She hadn't been diagnosed as celiac back then, but she was like, I remember, because when you work in catering, um, you're always like, "Hey, we're short of waiter. Can you come and give us a hand? Can you work a food station?" And she came to one event where we were serving lobster, and she didn't eat it, but she left, and she was like her arms
Oh,
had
wow.
rashes up her arms, and you're like, "Wow, like, you better not go in rooms with lobster ever again." But really, I don't remember it was just not something that was talked about.
Right.
Or, I mean, very rarely.
Right.
Certainly not I mean, and I would say, even like, I would think the huge sort of concentration, or it has been the last maybe 15 years
Mhm. Okay.
where we've really made a conscious effort about allergens. Yeah.
And has a lot of the team been there the same length of time as you have?
A fair number of them
Mhm.
have, yes. But I mean, it's kitchen, so we also have some great, wonderful young people too who
Right.
bring us some vibrancy and energy, and it's awesome as well.
So how do and I asked Jay this question, how do you build a kitchen that maybe was they came to you having been trained under, French, this is classically trained French kitchen, to this environment? How do you build that culture of, hey, we want to do this for you. Like this is how we do our business.
I think to a certain extent, I think because we're caterers, I think there's a big difference. I think you see um, a lot less ego in a catering kitchen than you would say, and it makes sense, right? In a restaurant, that is you. That is the chef that is on display at that restaurant. You are coming to that restaurant to taste his food. But in a catering company, I am catering your wedding. This event shouldn't be about me. This event is about you. And so you are much more, you are already in the mindset of like, we want to make this good for you,
Mhm.
as opposed to, and in catering, this again, you can't, you know, we're already walking that line where we want to make wonderful food that tastes great, but I also have to serve 100 people in 12 minutes. So
Wow.
I am I am not going to have the same. I am more prepared to compromise certain things in order to make that happen and to make it be a wonderful experience. So when I compromise, I don't want to compromise on quality of ingredients or flavor of the food, but perhaps the presentation is not going to have 15 little dots on your plate. You're going to have your sauce and your garnish and your meat and your veg. Like it's going to be beautiful, but it's not going to be, like in a fine dining
Right. Michelin.
restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that we are already in the mind like, okay, how can we make this wonderful and beautiful, but also make it safe and um, good for and you know what? And it has been a journey. I mean, I do remember. Forget allergens, just vegetarians, and
Mhm.
vegetarians could have like, oh, you get a pasta. Here you go, you get a pasta. We don't put any thought into, not much thought was put into the vegetarian entrees. And now my vegetarian entrees, I will hold them right up next to any entree I serve the anybody else. They are
Wow.
complex and interesting, delicious and beautiful and so it is a journey, and it's kitchens have evolved, but you just have to, as a leader, you have to, you sometimes you insist on that evolution. If
Right.
this isn't something, if you're not interested in evolving, then but I do think in the catering kitchen, people are much more, you want to make your guests happy.
Right. Yeah. So is there a moment in there and like somebody from your team that like was, aha, oh my God, look what I just made. This is mind blowing that I didn't know that I could do.
We have that. I mean, I have, we do a new menu twice a year: fall,
Okay.
winter, spring, summer. Um, and I have, it's taken me a while, but I have a team, young, some are young, some are older. They've been with us for a long time, but we have about 6 people that generally work on new menu items. And so they're often like, oh my God, look what I did. Like, look what I came up with. And you know what, it was at one time, it was me who was doing all of that by myself. And
Mhm.
you know, again, there's pros and cons to everything. When it was me doing it, it was it was my vision, and it was so that it was maybe easy for me to make everything work together. Now I have 6 visions, and we have to make sure that we are able to all make ourselves work together. But it is a wonderful thing. It is amazing to be working with people who are excited and interested. And this team is where that whole, like we have to. So we're thoughtful about it. We're sitting down. We're designing these menu items together and separately. Like we have the meeting, and then we separate and we come up with our dishes and we come back to the table. We're going forward with the, like, one has to be vegan, one has to be gluten free. We like, do we have to put gluten in this? I mean, something in our kitchen, we have now become a nut free. My savory kitchens are nut free.
Okay.
It just became something that was, the risks were too great. And, so, and the rewards, at a certain point, you're like, no, the reward of having nuts and things is not worth the risk I'm taking. Because that is something they're small, they spread, you can touch a nut and then forget that you touched the nut and go and make something else. And it was just, when you would have an anaphylactic allergy, it would just be a stress point that finally we're like, no, let's just take this off the table. We do still use them in our pastry department because, pastries, certain things you just can't have without nuts. But we're lucky that they have their own separate space. And so that means my cold kitchen and my hot kitchen, I do not have to worry about nuts anymore. And I can tell you that not only is it great for the client, but it is such a relief for me. It is a pain point or a stressor that I don't have anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
one thing that I thought this was amazing that Jay said the other day, like in the SOP process of it, he said if we have somebody that is a contact allergen, like they're gonna from touch, right? He goes, I assign one server and I assign one kitchen staff person to make, they're only responsible for that one item because of what you just said, because of the risk of forgetting to change your gloves or forgetting to take your apron off or whatever. And I'm like, that seems simple, but it's something that you don't think through all the time.
right. And I mean, and that is something too, like contact allergens uh, are they are scary.
Hmm.
So we really well, we do very similar. We
Hmm.
also, though, if for people that have multiple allergens or contact allergens, we then ask the planner or the salesperson, like, we need to talk to that person. We find out what it is that we can make for them. Because sometimes you get a list of 10 things and you're like, rather than me try to cobble something together from what we're making, why don't you just tell me? Tell me what you will feel comfortable eating. And then that way I can make that and I can assign somebody in the kitchen to make it so that I don't have to. So I know that person has front to back, like top to bottom, they have worked on that item. So I know they have paid very close attention to making sure that they have not cross contaminated. They haven't put a piece of chicken on a grill that just cooked salmon. They have washed their knives and they're using fresh knives and spoons and everything to make it so that they can very comfortably say this is good. This is good for this person. And then someone on site is in charge of making sure it gets heated and because we recently had somebody who was celiac and she said I can't even have food that is heated in the same oven as
Wow.
I know, and she actually did not tell us that till the event night. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but we figured it out. And then of course, yes, making sure that the server is going with
Right.
that plate that gets handed to that person. And or hors d'oeuvres, the same thing with hors d'oeuvres. If and it's trickier. It's much trickier. I will tell you, if I'm at a small party with an anaphylactic allergen, I try to get the salespeople to leave that off their menu. So
Mhm.
if I'm at a party for 20 people and there's somebody with an anaphylactic shellfish allergen, I say let's no shrimp. Let's
Right.
no clams, no mussels, no scallops. Let's leave that off here because
Mhm.
in a 20-person party, I'm not necessarily I don't have one server to dedicate to serving the shrimp hors d'oeuvre.
Right.
That person has to serve a bunch of other hors d'oeuvres. So then if that person has to every time, you can dedicate a tray to the shrimp, but the server still has to go and wash their hands and take off the gloves and wash their hands and put on clean gloves and go and tray another 12 shrimp and then
Mhm.
that's it's not practical. So that is what
Right.
I try to do. But yeah.
Um, I'm like, I wanna come eat all of your food, but the the now I just lost my train of thought. The opportunity, like, and you said streamline too, so I wanna get to that. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's not having a bunch of different things like so you're not doing it like the streamlining has probably saved you money. It's gotten you new clients. Can you talk a little bit about like how it has actually helped you? Like reduce your costs? If it, I mean, I'm assuming it
Um,
has.
you know, and I will say it because we are so big. I don't honestly. My menus are too big. This doing two new menus every year, and then the problem is people love the old menu. So now I have a new menu and I have the old menu, and I've been in business for 45 years, and I do try to be ruthless about getting rid of stuff. So, but it does mean that. I mean, yes, if when I can get my sales team to kind of come together, and it does make it a lot easier, but it just means as well that, like, I don't have to make special menus. Like, here's my hors d'oeuvres. There are 30 hors d'oeuvres here. So 12 of them are gluten free.
Wow.
So when you're making a menu, you're going to put some of those gluten free hors d'oeuvres on your menu. You're going to put, I'll have 12 vegan hors d'oeuvres. I have maybe 6 meat hors d'oeuvres that don't have dairy in them. So you have the option to make that menu very allergen friendly to begin with. So that's much more seamless than you coming to me having put dairy and wheat on every single hors d'oeuvre and coming to me a week beforehand and saying, okay, well, now can you make these hors d'oeuvres wheat and dairy free? And that's where it really saves me time and money, because I can say, no, I cannot, but you can have one of these over here or two
Mhm.
of these over here.
Right.
So a bit, and
Yeah.
I think that we have educated them enough too that they wouldn't ever do that anymore. They wouldn't have an entire menu with just that's unedible for a huge portion of our guest count anymore.
Oh, I could count the stories and give you so many stories, but but again, it's a lot of it's not coming from a catering kitchen. It's coming from a mass food service. Let's call it food service kitchen.
Right.
But at the same time, they're feeding the same amount of people. I mean, you may not be feeding 17,000 people, but you could still provide that same experience for 17,000 people, if you thought through with what you just described, you know?
Right. And they could too.
Yeah.
And it kind of surprises me that they don't,
Mhm. Yeah.
because they are serving the same clientele I'm serving. So they must have the same pain points that I have.
Mhm.
If you're
Right.
serving 17,000 people, you absolutely have gluten-free um,
Yeah.
people in that group, a
Right.
huge percentage. You have vegans, and so I mean, if you're not prepared for that, it seems short-sighted. And I mean, I would think in hotels too, like, we do actually do a number of multiple day events, so
Mhm.
it is important that that's why I want to have like those 6 or 8 things,
Mhm.
that, I mean, everything we do, we think about that. We have breakfast items that are vegan. Um, Now when I do food stations, and this is something like, the food stations was our sort of our last bastion where we weren't thinking about it. One of the owners came to me and said, how about when you do a food station, you make sure you design a vegan component. And that is also one of the places where um, you might, if you can't have the main one, even though you're not vegan, your option is going to be the vegan option for that
Mhm.
station. But so if I make so we have a jerk chicken station, and that jerk chicken station now has jerk tempeh.
Okay.
And again, so now my staff are pretty, so it's on that jerk chicken, they do rice and peas. So the rice and peas are the starch and the veg. So again, that is now that even the jerk chicken is very friendly to lactose free, to gluten
Mhm.
free, no nuts. So we do things like that. And if other people aren't doing that, I kind of say, why? Why aren't you doing that? Because it is so simple for me. I don't have to rack my brains. I'm like, here you go. Here's a very
Mhm.
beautiful station. And I've really thought of everybody.
Well, yeah, I could send you some menus. I mean, and actually I was been looking at one the other day, and the cold hors d'oeuvres, I think there's probably 12 or 15 on the list, and there was probably 4 that were gluten-free, dairy-free, 4 or 5. But I looked at the hot, and not a single one was gluten-free, dairy-free. and there's like 15 listed there. And I'm like, what am I, this is what I'm
Why?
left with. Yeah. And why? Yeah.
And it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly,
Yeah.
because it's not. It really, once you start thinking about it, it's not hard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, they could even just do satays, like meat on a stick.
Mm-hmm.
That also with a nice salsa or with a aioli or, but there are lots of, like I think it's just a matter of like I know wheat's a good binder, but there are others. There's so many, and that's the world's evolving, so they're going to have to evolve too. Like there are so many products that are available, like gluten-free breadcrumbs are available. There are gluten-free, really good gluten-free flour mixes that have
Mm-hmm.
been designed to work really well in pastries and in your sauces. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't have to use flour to bread your fish. You can use potato starch or you can use rice flour, depending on what kind of result you want.
Right.
There's just no reason. It's. I'm sure perhaps like large corporations take a little bit longer, but they're going to have to
Yeah.
start being more inclusive
Well, and I think,
because
yeah.
clients they're insisting.
Mm-hmm. And for me, like a hotel, I'm like, this is an opportunity for you to get heads in beds. You as a caterer, it's an opportunity to get another wedding or a corporate event, but it's more people to get a head in a bed in your hotel, especially. I mean, it's not necessarily your restaurants, but maybe they're going to bring their next event to you. Um, so it's kind of, it boggles my mind as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I want to go back to something that you said at the very, very beginning. And you said Toronto's like
sure.
this very cultural city, right? Like lots of different cuisines, et cetera. So
Hmm, hmm.
how do you honor that while also honoring somebody who is, has a dietary restriction at the same time? I mean, those are two things that are super important to potentially mesh together in your menu design.
Um, so I would say, first of all, depending on how authentic they want me to be,
Mhm.
I will often partner with somebody to do a certain cuisine. And so then that becomes that caterer's problem, not mine. But it is really not that hard. And a lot of different cuisines don't use like the Indian food is there is a whole subsection of it. Like a lot of them are vegetarian.
Mhm.
So that is, and they use butter, but then they also use ghee, which they have a vegetarian ghee that you can use so that you don't have to put butter in it. They don't tend to use a lot of like, and they use like chickpea flour a lot more than
Mhm.
they use. So some of the cuisines, it's really not even that hard. Again, Asian cuisines are not that hard until if it's a soy allergy, then you have a bit of more of a problem, and you have
Right.
to figure out how to work that through. But even like we have developed here a vegan fish sauce so that we can have that, but it still has soy in it.
Okay.
It has soy and then it has mushrooms because to get that unami flavor,
Right.
which can create other problems because mushrooms are not generally an anaphylactic allergy, but an allergy for people. Um, so, I mean, it's really the different cuisines. Where it's hard is things like Italian, and it is gluten-free pasta is it's just not as good as regular pasta. But at the same time, I do think like that's what I say, to my hardcore Italian uh, cooks that gluten-free, they have made that compromise in their life that they understand this is where we're at. And some of them are very good. They're just not quite the same.
Right. Yeah.
So, they are still very happy to be able to have it, even if it's not quite what you think really good pasta should be. Um, I would say it is the one cuisine that's the harder one for me. That kind of is a little bit tricky, but for the most part, I think it just means you just have to be a little bit creative about what ingredients you're going to put in so that you can accommodate.
Yeah. How do you Okay, so you've got your culinary team. How does the front of the house staff? Do you all, I mean, you've been together for 45 years, the company's been around. I mean, in some instances there's a clash between the front of the house and the back of the house and sales, but it sounds like you work very well with your sales team, but how do your servers, like, how do you train them and where do they, like, do they feel like they're part of this entire process?
Um, I'm not sure. We use, to be fair, we use in Toronto, we're a little bit different. We have 3, 4, maybe 4 really good staffing agencies, and most caterers do not have their own.
Oh, okay.
It's just one level, like, again, at one more pain point, because it's very hard to have enough work to sustain a um, a full-time staff and or to manage the churn of people who, because who are going to work as your servers. Generally it's students or actors and artists and people
Mhm.
who have feast and famine in their lives. My son, who is a writer and a comedian, and so he is a waiter for one of these companies. So it is hard to manage that. So we have these companies that manage it and do it very well, and they have access to all the caterers in Toronto, so they can get enough work for their teams. But what we have developed is our signage system, and we are very specific on our signs. So our signs not only, here's something that we could talk about for hours probably too, is we do use the terms nut free and gluten free and dairy free, but really legally we should be saying made without dairy,
Yeah,
made without, because those things exist in my kitchen. So I
right.
still have to say to people, I am not an allergen free kitchen. But so we tell you what's not in our products, and then we tell you what is in our product. So
Mhm.
we say this is nut free, but contains wheat, contains soy, contains sesame. So that,
Oop.
oops, I hope that doesn't.
Nope, you're
Um,
good.
um, we also, that means too. So if now once, because generally, as I said, I like to try and make menus that are as inclusive as possible. But once I only get my allergens about 7 days out.
Okay.
So there are going to be things where I haven't, you can't, you can't. So if I can, I will remove the allergen from an item. But if I feel I can't, then I will also put on the signage. So now I have a mushroom allergy in this party. So all the hors d'oeuvres that have mushrooms on the sign, it will say contains mushrooms. And then our waiters, even though they are most for they are excellent. They are excellent, and at the beginning of the event, you have a little meeting and you say, "This is what's in this. This is what's not in this. It's on the sign. If you get a question, make sure that you refer to the sign if you don't remember. And if it's something you're really not sure about, you come back and ask someone in the kitchen before you give an answer to the client." So that's kind of how we manage it on site to
Mhm.
make sure. And I also, for anaphylactic things or for the top 9, so there are very few things that I'll let you put nuts in if you haven't put the nuts somewhere where people can see them. Macarons are one of them where it's like that's not possible. But
Right.
for the most part, if there are nuts in it, then the nuts should be on top, because I want, even to the very last second, I want that person bringing it to their mouth go, "Oh no," and put it down. Sesames, if there's sesame in it, I try to make sure we sprinkle sesame somewhere as a garnish, like on the top or around the
Mhm.
plate. Like, here, sesame's here, alert, alert. Um, so that's something else that I try to do. So the signage and
That's
the
amazing.
and the other thing that I will talk about, if I may, for a second,
Yeah.
is also the thing that's really, really important is recipes. We have a recipe software program. It's like kitchen management talk, but our recipes are in there, and it is really important that your staff get trained to follow those recipes. They are not to go offline and add things in or take things out. They must follow the recipe, because when we are working with the sales team, to make sure that we know what's going on. That is what I am referring to. So if my recipe says no garlic, and for some bizarre reason you decide today that it should have garlic, that's a no. That's a
Mhm.
no, because it's very likely that I'm going to go to a client and say, this is safe for you to eat. There's no garlic here. So you can't just add it. You must follow those recipes. And that was a big change for our kitchen,
I bet. Yeah.
because years, and I think you talk to any kitchen, they'll be like, oh, the recipes are all here. And that's like, no, they can't be here. They have to be on paper.
Well, yeah, because if you get sick and don't show up to work, or what's the historical of your business? What do you have left of your business if it's all up here? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's lots of reasons why it's good to have it on
Yeah.
paper and not, but managing allergens has been one of the, I mean, that, rather than having to go around to each person who makes something and say, did you put this in there? Is this in there? I can just go to the computer and I can go, yep, no, you're good, you're good, you're good. Oh, we're going to have to work on this recipe. If we want to remove it, then we have
Mhm.
to change it.
Right. Yeah, because you have to think through all the textures and the amounts of everything, of how that's going to give a different flavor or a different texture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Oh my gosh, this is just so amazing. Thank you so much for how you do all of
Oh,
this.
you're very welcome.
It's
Yeah.
it it's making it makes people in this world that manage dietary restrictions feel so much more comfortable being able to go to a place and have a meal and not feel othered, because they
Yeah.
don't eat something or can't eat something.
I know. And
Yeah.
that's my sister. I mean, for years she would just like, she's very um self-effacing, and she wouldn't want to be a problem to anyone, and she just wouldn't eat. Like if she was going to invite she was invited to a wedding, she would eat beforehand, and she just wouldn't eat. And it's like, well, we don't want that for you. We want you to be able to go and to have a meal and to
Hmm.
enjoy just as everyone else does. And even we go to restaurants and sometimes she won't. But if I'm with her, I speak up. I'm like, Melissa, you have to speak up. Tell them.
Yeah.
Even if you think you're ordering something without that allergen in it, you should tell them so that they know to take care,
Right.
because otherwise they might not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Are you good?
Okay, I'm good.
All right. The one ingredient that every event menu should feature more of, and one that you just want to get rid of.
Well, you know what? I mean, every event is different to me, so I can't. I'll tell you what's really big right now: dill and
Oh,
pickles are
really?
having a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they are here. I mean, it's the moment's so big. The grocery store is like dill pickle hummus, dill
Oh,
pickle
wow.
chips, dill pickle salad dressings. Dill is having a moment, and I love dill, so we're good with that in this kitchen. I'll tell you the thing that I would love to hear less of is elevated and VIP. I think it's not an item, but my son and I, and actually, we were having a conversation about it, and he's like, "Well, how do you handle it when it's VIP?" And I said, I actually handle it the same way I handle it for everybody, because I want to serve everybody really great, amazing food.
Hmm.
And the same with elevated. Elevated means very different things to different people. So just tell me what you want. Because sometimes elevated just means a small hamburger. And if
Right.
that's what you mean by elevated, then just tell me I want a mini hamburger. Because to me, elevated means lobster and caviar.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So I would prefer people who are just a little bit more like, this is what we want. This is what an elevated experience is for me. Um,
I would love well, I had an elevated burger without a bun at a restaurant in Greenville, South Carolina. The chef took an iceberg lettuce, head of iceberg lettuce, and chopped off the top, chopped off an edge of it, and put the rounded piece as the top of the hamburger, as my top hamburger bun, and then took the
yeah,
next
yeah.
slice and put it as the bottom. I'm like, that's the best, like,
Burger I've had.
presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
otherwise it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a piece of
And
meat
how
on a plate.
delicious would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like crunchy lettuce, the burger, that'd be delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's my elevated
yeah.
in that burger situation.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And yet someone else might never even think of that. So, um, when you're going to a restaurant, it's different. But when you're doing a catering function, like to tell me what you want, what experience you want to have,
Right.
and I will do my very best to make sure you get that experience.
Okay. I love that. Okay. You're catering a dinner for 10 friends tonight. What's on the menu and what's your non-negotiable dish?
Okay, so I am a carnivore. Yeah, I don't know it, but anyway, I am an unrepentant carnivore. So probably it would either be steak or chicken. I really love a beautiful steak. I love flank steak. So if I was having 10 people, I would probably grill a flank steak or two, and then some sort of greens would be a non-negotiable for me.
Okay.
My husband does. He gets tired of broccoli sometimes and be like, please, no more broccoli. But I could eat broccoli every night of the week and I'd be perfectly happy. But anything like so something green and crunchy would have to be a non-negotiable. And then, depending if it's cold, then we'll do a roast potato, or we
Hmm.
could do. I would love to do grain salads. Um, you know, Generally I love wheat berry, but again, depending on who's coming to dinner, I might do something with quinoa or
Hmm.
sorghum.
Hmm.
Sorghum's kind of like a wheat berry texture,
Hmm.
but gluten free. So then I love a grain salad, but I love like roasted potatoes as well. Beautiful roasted potato.
One of the things that I
Yeah,
used to eat a lot when I lived in Atlanta because I could get it at the market was buckwheat grouts. And I would eat it,
yeah,
toast it, and it was like grape nuts, right?
yeah, yeah,
And even
yeah.
though it says wheat in it, buckwheat is gluten free.
It's gluten free, and that's just it. There's so many things out there that you can use that you should not have a problem being
Yeah,
accommodating.
right. Exactly. Okay. What is the first memory that made you think, I want to do this for a living?
Hmm. I don't know really when, because I actually really, really wanted to be a ballerina for most of my young life. Um, but I also love to eat, and my grandmother was a wonderful cook. So I remember like she would make a beautiful roast dinner with the Yorkshire pudding, and even though she was English, her roast beef was perfectly medium rare and delicious and succulent, and she didn't scrimp on ingredients. There's nothing but the best from my grandma. So that's one thing. And my mom had these cookbooks that were like they were one of the magazines, like Good Housekeeping or Better Home Gardens. There was a whole series of them, and I do remember one of them was like a cocktail party cookbook, and I would pore over that book and I would be like, oh, it seemed so magical to me. And I would think like one day I'm gonna have cocktail parties and I'm gonna serve all these beautiful little
Oh,
bits of
that's awesome.
food and yes. So I've always loved food and I always loved cooking. And when I finally realized that ballerina wasn't gonna work out for me, it was pretty easy pivot. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that story. Okay, my final question is finish this sentence. Every meal should.
Oh, I don't know. Every meal should make you feel like you're just delighted to have eaten it. Like you're just like, oh, every meal should just be satisfying and delicious and um, like just the thing you needed. I mean, I guess I don't know. Like we do Sunday dinners, even though it's only three of us. I have just one child, and the three of us do dinner. And it's, Monday we start planning what Sunday dinner is going to be. And it's just, it should be good company and good conversation and delicious food. And it should just be a moment of coming together with people and enjoying their company and having wonderful food. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I so appreciate your
You're
time
welcome.
today.
Oh, my pleasure.
I
I really
hopefully
enjoyed this. It is the
I
first time I've ever been on a podcast, so it's very
Oh, yay!
exciting for
Oh,
me.
I'm
Yes,
so
yes,
excited. Thank you. I feel
yes. It was a
honored.
lot of fun. Thank
Good.
you. It was so easy.
I
You
try to
made it
make it
really
easy.
easy.
I try to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does somebody hire you? Where do they get in touch with you?
Uh, Danielle and Danielle. You call Danielle and Danielle. Do you want numbers?
I
416-968-9. We're in the,
yeah,
Danielle Catering in
in
Toronto.
Toronto. Okay.
We're online. Yeah, that's
Okay.
probably just Google us. You Google us. My
Google it.
son's always saying, "Mom, you have a computer in your hand. Why are you asking me?" So Google us.
Google us. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in Savannah, for
Yes, I
Send.
hope
Yep.
so. I think
Yeah.
yes, I'll
Okay.
be there. Yeah.
Okay. Me too.
And
Yeah.
all right.
All righty. Well,
Take care.
thank you, everybody. And tomorrow, I actually have a surprise guest for you tomorrow. Representative Carter from the state of Michigan, talking about her food allergy labeling bill. Will be on the show tomorrow, special time at 11 a.m. So until then, stay safe and eat well and enjoy your Food Allergy Awareness Week. Thanks.